says, you serve my devotee. It's the only way to make advancement. And those who maintain this etiquette, that's what it is. It's sometimes an etiquette. Maybe you may think this devotee is not so advanced, and maybe this devotee is this. But serving him like that, that's automatically facilitating progress. No, service can be done in a different way, Again, I would have to go in details. I don't want to go in such a detail, but different people will serve in different ways. A Shudra kind of person will ask you, how can I serve you? Oh, can I carry your suitcase? A Vaishya person will say, donation here, I can serve you. A Kshatriya person will say, sit down. I want to serve you. It's like not exactly like what you would expect, but that's his way to expressing his service attitude. And a Brahminical person, you may not even notice he wants to serve you because he's just waiting for the moment he can teach you something. And if you are such an idiot, you don't listen, well, then he cannot serve you. Sorry. That's another problem we have down the road. We are not tapping enough on truly Brahminical persons. There is knowledge, but you have to learn how to connect yourself to that. I see even amongst my godbrothers there are so many who can give, but because Brahmana is not pushing, he's not imposing himself upon you. Kshatriya will do that, yeah. He will just say, sit down, I will teach you now. Brahmana will not do that. He's just humble. He just, therefore Brahmanas have to be facilitated. Therefore Prabhupada said, without this combination, Kshatriya and Brahmana, we get nothing done.
Where's this from? Is a letter or direct purport? Where's this
I heard it personally in a lecture in France. When I was in the installation of Krishna Balaram deities. It was quite shocking because we expected that he will speak about Krishna and Balaram. He just bathed Krishna and Balaram, and he was in a very, very, you could say, very, as Prabhupada so gently says about his spiritual master, he was a little bit indisposed. In Prabhupada's case, it meant actually Prabhupada was really in a bad shape. Physically spoke. He spoke it was very intense. And we thought, he will speak about Krishna, Balaram, Rasa, and then he spoke about Varnashram Dharma. He spoke about the need of... I don't even know, I went through the recording of the French period when he was there. I don't remember finding that lecture, but I was sitting there. I heard there was quite some lectures lost. So I don't know if it's there. I would have to go now back and dig through the whole thing. But and it's proven in the history of mankind, so even in India it's proven. Without Ashok, the king, how would Buddhism spread around? And the Kshatriyas of Jaipur established all the holy places in Vrindavan by being preached to by the Goswamis. Radha Govinda temple in Vrindavan is built by a military high general, some high officer or whatever, who spent all his money for making this magnificent temple. So,
where are these natures found today? Who are the Brahmanas and who are the Kshatriyas?
They are heavily covered in the West, but they are still there. So nice to find. It's very helpful. I don't want to mix it now. We are supposed to talk about Prabhupada, but 2 days ago I had experience to meet a real Shudra. Father of the friend of my daughter. We met twice. I don't know the man. He tells me in the middle of the parking lot, standing in front of the car. He looks in my eyes, suddenly unusually serious. You don't meet with kamis this kind of serious exchange because they are very superficial. Hello, how are you? How is the weather? How is the money? And bye bye. This is like usually kami talk about nothing. This man suddenly used it. I saw you 2 times. We spoke last time briefly. I could well imagine you could become my biggest friend. Tells you straight in the face like this. It's a long time ago somebody told me like this. Something I was going, what did he say? He knew I have a sympathy for the man because he was not pretending. Nothing. You know what the man was? In Swedish they call it svetsare. That's the guy who is welling, iron together. It's his profession. But not a really degraded drunkard or some tamasi guy. Somebody who immediately, obviously had some idea about people. And he would feel, in his way, he said, I would be honored if you could be my friend. And he knew we are not going to have that much more contact. But he just wanted to say it. He felt it's very important to tell this to me. And you can say, what? It's a kami, he's not even pure vegetarian. So what? What is this? No idea really much about God, nothing. No, it's a fact. It's a fact. No idea about God, really much. But not offensive to the idea about God. And not revolting against his, varna. Being situated in that. The man was in a meeting with other people, and everybody was afraid of something. He was one of the very few people who, me and him, we were not afraid of anything. Because we had nothing to lose. What? What do you want to do? So we were cool in a meeting. We were just, until they asked first him, do you want to say something too? And he said, yes. And then he said, simply what it is. Basically defining the problem. And then they turned on me and he said, you want to say something too? And I said my thing. And we were completely cool. The rest was like, oof, oof, don't say it. Oof, off, oof. We are not going to speak about this. Oof, off, oof, 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 if. In such an atmosphere, you cannot preach. Man like this, if I would meet him now, let's say 1-2 times more, I can give you guarantee I can start to preach to him. Because he trusts me. When that trust is established, you can preach very easy. I can tell him any damn thing and he will listen. He will not feel offended. Maybe he will say, I don't understand. He will say honestly. And I will fully respect, I reach my limits. He has no brain to understand. But nobody will get agitated down the road. But people who are afraid that somebody will discover something which they don't know, immediately preaching becomes very difficult. So this was Prabhupada, He was so balanced. And he was so, situated in any regard that preaching from his side was commanding, not demanding, commanding that better you stop cheating yourself. That's because Prabhupada was so balanced. Like his preaching was not like, no, you have to understand Krishna exists, and trying to explain. Basically, he preached on a level where he said, you forgot Krishna. Why? And even very kind of high caliber intellectuals were looking like infant idiots in front of him, because they were like, I don't know much about Krishna. And Prabhupada was like, why not? I mean, how could you miss that? And they were like, I will try. I mean, I should try, isn't it? And Prabhupada said, you should. And it's like, it was such a, that's called power. It's a completely natural power. That person was like crumbled, he was just saying, devotees watched this like going, this is the mayor of the city of Paris. He looks like an idiot. And he was. And Prabhupada just, because he just, because he was absolute freedom of doubt. Doubt even about his position, doubt about his service, doubt about existence of Krishna or whatever. Freedom of doubt. When you have no doubt, they have no chance to have a doubt. And if they have doubt, they will completely idiots. There's of course very few people who can take such a thing. Prabhupada was sometimes not so concerned. He just wanted to present Krishna consciousness. And he looked, actually, another beauty of Prabhupada was that he was heavy, but compassionate simultaneously. It's like, if you would translate it into some physical circumstance, it's like somebody, being very heavy. You know, he can kill me anytime. You just know. Like somebody having some gun or something like this, and you think, one pull with a trigger, I'm dead. But he will be smiling. And he will go, don't worry, I will not shoot if you behave nicely. So you accept Krishna exists. I'm not shooting. And Prabhupada could so overcome, and people were so relieved. Oh, he's not shooting. So nice. They were so relieved, You will not be happy with me, isn't it? And Prabhupada was like, by his appearance, he didn't even say really anything. By his appearance, he was like, no, I will not be happy. As long you will become more Krishna conscious, Don't worry, we can try to take it step by step. We will not go just immediately heavy here. Because people always expect from a preacher fanaticism. At least that's the Western training. When they see a preacher, they go, the preacher, fanatic, Satan, you'll go to hell, and this is what they expect, trained by this fanatical Kanishta Adhikari Christian tradition. But when they don't have that, they get completely unsecure. They think, when is he going to be very fanatic? And we undoubtedly have devotees who act on that line, completely fanatic. But a person who really has power, he doesn't have a need for that. That means he's detached, but simultaneously, he's just heavy, but for your benefit, not to establish himself or, This was all included in Prabhupada's personality. It was so fascinating to see this. You had a feeling of incredible heaviness, but simultaneously of incredible tolerance. This was so encouraging. You knew by confronting Prabhupada or being confronted with him, you are really an idiot. But it was not scary. It was more like relieving. Oh, now I can be an honest idiot. Now I realize I know absolutely nothing. I'm a fool number one. And the more I realize it, the more ecstatic I am. In the material world, the more you realize it, the more depressed you are. But in connection to Prabhupada, the more you realize it, the more relieved you are. Because you gave up that game. You didn't have to play the game to pretend somebody you are not. And that mood Prabhupada had. He was extremely merciful and even tolerant to those who were honestly striving. But those who were pretending, it's very heavy to confront Prabhupada. Very heavy. Even amongst his disciples. It was generally the rule. Therefore he was like very soft with Sankirtan devotees usually, because Sankirtan leaves very little space to pretend. You can go for a little while, then you have to wind it up. Because every day you are just exposed, torn apart, and and anything what you have, all the dirt, it's all coming out already. So then Prabhupada said, yeah, he's already under the shower. Why should I scrub him more? Yeah. This was so enlivening. I never had that personal glance of Prabhupada. I just got a letter, but I was absolutely aware that he is aware of my service. That connection was absolutely there. For every Sankirtan devotee, for every devotee, as a matter of fact, who served in this movement, and you can feel it when you speak even to Prabhupada disciples, who may come in various shapes, let's face it. But when it comes to talking about Prabhupada, they all lighten up. Because that was the only time in their lives they didn't cheat, and didn't have to cheat. Outside of not serving Prabhupada, very likely you end up again playing some false game. This was fascinating to me when I first time saw devotees. I was thinking, these people don't play games. Because all my, artists and whoever, whatever I met before, was somebody who was just playing something. But these people, they were just putting on these bed sheets and they jumped on the street and said, that's me, servant of Krishna. Take it or leave it. That was the mood. I was thinking, that's very bold to do such a thing. I didn't have even an idea that you can continue playing games even as a devotee. That was kind of those days impossible when I joined. But you can, yeah. But the real relieving thing being together with Prabhupada was that you didn't have to pretend. You couldn't. Prabhupada just look at you like, what are you talking about? Prabhupada, I was like thinking, Michael. And Prabhupada said, you want some prasadam? Just take prasadam. Stop playing the game. What are you doing? And you realize, yeah, actually, I just take prasadam and be happy. Why should I just play some game being somebody who I'm not? It was so relieving. But everybody was kind of very happy coming out with, whoever was somewhat honest or striving for honesty was very enlightened by Prabhupada, who was the embodiment of honesty. Even Prabhupada, in a frame of business, in a frame of management, you come in a situation in which you have to play games. But it's for Krishna. So devotees saw Prabhupada cheating a real estate broker just to get a good price for a new temple. Prabhupada could be happy to make business with Prabhupada. No jokes. He was professional. But for Krishna it took suddenly completely different form because it wasn't not for him whatsoever. So Prabhupada was like transcendental means he was in it and he was one and different simultaneously. This is the transcendental quality. He could be very heavy, very, but simultaneously. He could be like very caring, up to the point when you read his letters to the Matajis, my God, this is for sure nothing to do with some sannyasi writing. It's far beyond that. Caring for his daughters, as he called it, all the time. Devotees have sometimes they saw Prabhupada is so, wow, it's like my father. And suddenly Prabhupada was gone. In the middle of the conversation, Prabhupada was withdrawn. This was a shocking experience. Because you realized why he's talking to you, he is with Krishna simultaneously. So, like our problems are always of the same quality basically. We get drawn into the circumstance we are in. Like you talk to a passionate person, you become passionate. You talk to a tamasic person, you become angry. You may talk to a person in mode of goodness, you become envious, whatever. You get involved. Prabhupada was never involved like this. He could be all yours, but under his terms. The servant of Krishna, like he writes in his letters, he quite often uses phrase, I heard about your disease. I was deeply shocked. That word shocked he is using quite often. You think, oh no, Prabhupada was shocked. But when I read this, I immediately get that feeling. It's not like he was not concerned, but he couldn't have been that shocked about the state of somebody's body. Okay? We are not his body. That was the first thing, right? So, but he was concerned. And that was his innocent way to express it. He was definitely concerned because Prabhupada made a clear line. This is our people and this is the other people. Like he writes in his appeals to that devotees should get permanent residence to India, or in an early stage they shouldn't go to Vietnam. He said we have to protect our boys. That was his mood. Our boys, we have to protect them. And this is the feeling you got, and several devotees were ready to lay down their lives for Prabhupada, because they knew he is ready to he already did lay down his life for us. That mutual exchange was there. When this starts to go like this, when this is established, preaching becomes so powerful. You look amongst the devotees and ask yourself seriously, who has such a deep obligation to a spiritual master today? Who feels like my spiritual master practically died for me? Well, I have to die for him. That was the mode. I joined. I tell you. Devotees told me straight in the face, welcome. It's a good place to die. And I said this was a good idea. Someone at that point, I was not shocked. I said, no, this is actually, someone I said, I will die one way or another. I mean, why not here? And it was really dying, I tell you quite frankly. All my ideas about, what I am and everything was blown to pieces on a daily basis. And I had to almost punch myself in the cheek, every evening going, that's still me, I'm still alive. What is this? I asked, where are we going to take shower? Here. Where here? We are sitting in a car covered by snow. Come on! That word come on, I heard it so many times. It's one of the first really English words I learned in ISKCON. Come on! And there was another one, anyway. These two words I got to hear all the time. But I said, I'm supposed to now to strip myself naked and go in a pile of snow and take shower? Yeah, but they already did that. It's not like they pushed me to do something they didn't do. They were already in the snow, and they came frozen, jumping into the car again. Well, of course, that can be extreme. It was just extreme. It was immaturity, and all these things were there, of course. I remember once, my Sankirtan leader, I was maybe 3 weeks on Sankirtan. I ended up sleeping in a parking lot next to the main square in a town, small town, which was typical like German town, this kind of old-fashioned buildings in a circle almost, a square, and in the middle there was this old-fashioned fontaine, with this water, this different levels of water like this, And in the morning, quiet streets, 3 o'clock in the morning, the whole town is sleeping. And I was taking shower in that fontaine in the middle of the town. 4 brahmacharis. Horrible! In the middle of the marketplace. And I thought, this is not possible, I cannot do this. But they were already doing that. Not only that, but then our Sankirtan brought a boga box from the car with cauliflower, I remember. And he started to cut the vegetable for the breakfast. In the middle of the marketplace, washing it in a fontaine, running water. Just... And then pressure cooker, and then in the middle of the house. And then I remember the first man who woke up, going to job, probably some night guard or who came home, just seeing his eyes, and disappearing in a side street. So my thought was, what's next? Must be police. And I was right. Half an hour later we were all in the police station. So this was the beginning of the Sankirtan thing. So it's like, it was totally immature, of course. This is why you learn. That's why I'm so allergic to this kind of extremes and all this. Because, but by the end of the day, when all the complaints were spreading from Prabhupada, he was always protective to the devotees. But it doesn't mean he agreed. Because he knew that they gave their life. They tried to serve Krishna with all what they have, with all the stupidity and whatever they have. But they tried to serve, and that's the important part. I still remember that town, the face of the policeman coming out of the car. It was still this lemon with the cauliflower around the fountain, this and that. And this guy sitting already in a car with a pressure cooker, the gas cooker, cooking the breakfast, Horrible. I can tell you a whole evening incidents like this. We had many of them. So Prabhupada knew, like example, you can read it in his letters. to German devotees, he was concerned that you are the whole winter out there distributing books. For him, coming from India, this was like the peak of austerity. Because Prabhupada couldn't, his body and his age and being even Indian. I was with one Indian in the middle of a very, very heavy winter in a German area called Black Forest. I had an Indian devotee, his name was Mahakata. And we spent the whole winter just traveling in these little villages. I loved that. But you cannot imagine what it did to him. Being an Indian, he couldn't move every evening. He was stiff like ice cream. I had to put him on a heating to melt him practically. Because the Indian bodies are not meant for this kind of temperatures whatsoever. So Prabhupada really was thinking how these German boys are running around and distributing books in such a cold. He was very appreciated. So the relationship spiritual and master is through the service was very personal. Otherwise we wouldn't have been able to take this kind of austerity or this kind of thing because we felt Prabhupada being so close. You get to a spiritual master and to Krishna close through austerity, not through that mentally generated bliss. This is just a mental tickle. But the proof is that when the agitation comes, sensual agitation comes, you immediately drop the act. You just immediately switch. That's the proof. It wasn't real. Because when you have a real taste, then it cannot touch you. Because you have a stronger taste somewhere else. So no German police, no girls on the street, nothing of this could really hit a devotee who really had a taste. So it's just a question of how much taste you have for what. And serving Prabhupada in such an intimate way, like Sankirtan or like any service performed seriously, it's actually you come in an intimate association of the spiritual master. And there where the taste comes. And that's demonstrated by, as Prabhupada said, by absence of attraction even in presence of agitation. This is how you realize, actually, you are real. Not in an absence of agitation, in a presence of agitation. You could, but you don't. Because you think, I cannot do it. It's called personal. So for Mayavadis are so easy to fall down because they don't feel personally obliged to anything except themselves. Or they don't even know who they are. Therefore it's so easy to fall down from that platform. But as a real Vaishnava, a real Bhakta, he's personally obliged. He thinks, I would like to do this nasty thing, but I cannot do that. What will my spiritual master say? I cannot do that. What will the devotees say? You feel obliged. And that's personalism. Personalism is manifested to the degree you feel obliged to the spiritual master above all. Then to devotees, but above all to the spiritual master. Therefore, one has to have a spiritual master. Otherwise, to do something nasty, it's very easy, because you don't feel obliged to what? To realization of the super soul in the heart. Let's take it easy now. If we would be all acting upon the super soul in the heart, we wouldn't have these problems we have. If we would have a real strong connection to Krishna, we wouldn't have the problems we have. But at least one thing we can do, we can develop a relation to a spiritual master. And through him, all these things come. Actually, as described, the spiritual master is the external manifestation of the super soul. In the presence of Prabhupada, you easily got that idea. Because, like example, the super soul is in everybody's heart. That means the super soul is the ultimate mediator. Because he knows what he thinks, what you think, what I think, what you feel, And when you deal with pure